Hello friends, thank you so much for being here. Is the time change hitting anybody else real hard? Yeah, I already wake up early, so these last couple mornings I just stop and think like, so that means it's actually what time? It's bad, I don't like it. But I am pleased to be here talking to you guys about foundations today. I just thought it would be good to do a little roundup of some of the ones I'm liking the most right now, foundations and concealers. Didn't really get to a favorites video this past month, so I thought this was really the heart of it. So I'm going to talk about foundations. The first one, and one that I'm wearing today, so at the end I'll give you a little application of this, but this is a rediscovered fave here, the Born This Way matte from Too Faced. This wears like iron. This is kind of right up there staying power wise with the NARS soft matte, only I feel like this is probably a little bit lighter, a little more straight liquidy on the skin. NARS soft matte has a little more thickness, but the coverage is still totally there. I would call this a full coverage foundation, and it just is so super reliable. Wears all day, has a little pump. I wear light beige. If you've got the kind of day where you know there is going to be no opportunity for a touch-up and you want to stay looking as close as possible to where you started in the day, this stuff is really good for that. I kind of rediscovered this getting ready for one of their cheer competitions in past weekends, and I've wanted to grab for it often since then because I just think it makes the face look flawless and it wears all day. And then from the drugstore, my Hard Candy Glamouflage. I've been wearing this a lot too. This is the Glamouflage Full Coverage Foundation. It says oil-free plus vitamin E. I also love how Hard Candy just says wears for hours. It doesn't bother giving you 18 hours, 24 hours, just wears for hours. Just yeah, it'll do that. It'll wear for hours, unlike my bun. I wear the shade Natural. The application here, they have the little buck foot guy right there, so you just swipe it on. Really enjoying this. I feel like it amounts to just a little less coverage than this, but I would still put it in the full category. And it can kind of depend on your application method too. If you blend it in with a brush, you get a little more coverage. You can dock it down a little bit with a sponge. By the way, I'm loving these Milani sponges. You can get them in a 2-pack. This is the big one, and then there's a slightly smaller one. But this is also one of those kind of do-it-all foundations. It's got the coverage, it's got the staying power. This has maybe a slight bit less fully matte look on my skin compared to the Too Faced Born This Way matte, but just an amazing drugstore option and one of the cheapest. Like, you're gonna buy this one for $5 or $6. So yeah, that's been great for me. And am I loving like older faves like Wet n Wild Photo Focus and stuff like that? Absolutely, still love those foundations. These are just the things that are kind of coming in at the moment. Also, here's another great one, just L'Oreal True Match. We talk about this a lot, so I don't need to harp on and on this, but the True Match Nude Hyaluronic Tinted Serum, I am over halfway finished with this one. We have the pump. I'll link to the pump you can get that fits it on Amazon, which is 10 times better than the dropper. I wear 2-3 Light, and this is another really reliable foundation for me. These are kind of big dogs in terms of coverage. This one, I wouldn't call it full coverage, but it's one of the most flawless looking medium coverage foundations out there. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's on the high end of medium coverage, and it's not too shiny, sticky, dewy. This has a more matte look than you'd expect for the name Hyaluronic Tinted Serum. It's not incredibly matte. It's like a natural finish on the skin. You know if you've tried this, like, it's not super sticky, tacky, glowy, dewy. It actually wears a really long time on me. But if I'm making the decision to wear this over something like this, I'm wanting that little more natural look on the skin. The skin just looks awesome when I apply this. If you've been wearing the fuller coverage stuff maybe throughout fall and winter and you're like, I want to lighten it up a little bit, this is a good way to do that. But still, I consider this a hard-working all-day kind of foundation. It truly does go all day for me without the need for a bunch of touch-ups. So I like that. And I also wanted to throw in my Fit Me stick. This is nice, and this is super handy too. So you swipe this on for like a little light to medium coverage look, depending on how much you want to swipe on. Okay, you can kind of vary between a pretty light look and a little bit more toward medium. You can only put it in the places you want to really conceal if that's your vibe, but you can wear it all over as foundation. Just a little twist up stick. You know, these have been around for a while. Classic Ivory is the shade I wear in this. Is this the most hardcore staying power? It depends on how well I set it and how like even and full on the application is. Like if I've done something really quick where I've only patched it around in certain areas, that look's not going to wear as well as if I do it really evenly and then blend it out everywhere and like that's my full on base, you know? But you can touch up with this really easily. Like if you're ever thinking, gosh, I need a touch up, but it feels odd to put a full coverage concealer on top of a finished face, this is the kind of thing that is really ideal for touch ups because the consistency is just not as as thick and heavy as a concealer, and it can go on top of anything and not look like too much. So love the Fit Me stick. It says shine free and balance. It has that little core that's supposed to have something to do with that, but it looks very natural, very pretty on the skin. It is not a dry stick that's going to pull and drag across the skin. It just smooths on like silk. So that's my foundation, chat. 3 concealers I've been wearing quite a bit lately. The Glamouflage. Okay, this goes hand in hand for whatever reason. Like when I'm wearing this, I want its buddy in there, and this is so much lighter than the shade of the foundation, but it gives you a really brightened, let's call it snatched look. Fair is the shade I have in this, not really by choice. It was just all that was available. I probably am more close to light, but truly the lightness has been working for me. It's a great concealer. It's right up there with e.l.f. Camo Concealer for me. That's saying a lot. So yeah, get you some Hard Candy Glamouflage. And we're talking doe foot, buckfoot concealer there, you know, nothing strange and unique with the application. But seek this stuff out in your Walmart stores. Hard Candy has some of the most affordable items you're going to find. I've also been really impressed by the Physicians Formula Butter Glow Concealer. I have a full video on this with more details, but I have this in the shade light to medium, and they do not have a great shade range in store. That's kind of the problem with this. That's the con. And what is this up here? It's a little sponge. I definitely don't love using that more than a brush or sponge that I already have, but it is thin, 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 super liquidy, but still packs a really good coverage punch. It reminds me of the Catrice, the water weight dropper style concealer, just in a doe foot format. Wears really well on me. I mean, I do set this. I set all my concealers every day, but I do have this on today. You'll see it going on in the demo, and it is beautiful and super light. Which one has more coverage, the Glamouflage or this? Gosh, I feel like the Glamouflage probably covers just a little bit more and has the appearance of doing more. This maybe looks a hint more radiant on the skin. I think its thinness lends it to looking that way, and so this one probably goes a little bit further. And then you talk about a good all-purpose concealer you can count on. This Sephora Best Skin Ever Full Coverage Multi-Use Concealer. This is great, great stuff. I have 11.5p. It's a perfect shade for me. Anytime I use this, I'm just like, man, that really works. While not a total skin tone match, this is a little bit up from my skin tone. It's not quite as bright as that shade I have in the Glamouflage, but it's truly just perfect. It covers so well. It's not too thick, not too thin. I would say the consistency of this feels maybe a little bit lighter than a Tarte Shape Tape or even an e.l.f. Camo Concealer, but yet the coverage seems to be very full on. It says natural finish, long wear, anti-pollution, full coverage, multi-use concealer. I have no gripes about staying power with this. It's not overly drying. If you felt like some of those other ones I mentioned, like the e.l.f. or the Tarte maybe are too drying, this might be one worth trying because it's nearly that coverage, but not quite as much thickness. I really like it, can totally count on it. And one little thing, a thing on the rise, let's call it. It's very new to me. It definitely wouldn't be like a favorite status yet, but I've been trying this Juvia's Place I Am Magic Natural Radiance Foundation, and all I can say is wow. So far, it's a wow. Still testing it, but it's looking good. For now, let's show you a little demo using a couple of the favorites I mentioned. So here's gonna be my foundation look for today. I'm starting out with my Professional Primer. This was sent to me recently in PR. This is not a new product. And I feel like in retrying it, did this get way smoother or way more like moisture content in it? Because I like it so much more. Just watch what it does for my skin. I like it so much more than I used to. I'm using a lot of the pore related skincare. When they sent that, they sent a couple of primers as well. And this just feels so much more like silky, and on well moisturized skin, this is awesome. And look at how it just perfects on contact like that. Seriously enjoying the Professional. And then for my foundation today, I'm gonna do the Too Faced Born This Way Matte. This is the 24-hour undetectable super long wear foundation. Light beige is my shade. And we're gonna apply that with a sponge today. I can do sponge or brush with this, but I'd say I probably prefer the sponge. It has amazing coverage and it really wears like none other. And I've made that statement on here before. So this is kind of like rediscovered status for me. But I'm gonna bop that in with my sponge. As you can see, this shade, I mean, this becomes more ideal in the summer months, I feel, but it's worth making it work anytime because it is just such a reliable foundation. I mean, see this? And over that primer too, like, wow, the smoothness. Sometimes I'm in a matte mood, you know? Sometimes I just want it to be as even as possible. In any kind of video setting or social media setting, if I've got this one on, I'm getting the most compliments about my skin. And see, even with a sponge, which I often say, like when you pull a sponge in with your foundation, you're going to lessen the coverage a little bit. It's still got a lot. So I'm a big fan of this foundation. It's not too heavy, but that is some absolute full coverage right there, and it's gonna last me all day long. And then the concealer I'm gonna pull for today, I'm gonna use my Physicians Formula Butter Glow, which I have in the shade light to medium. I did a whole video talking about this and other Physicians Formula complexion products. I'm going to put some here on the under eye and kind of shoot some up this way around my nose. Not that this look is screaming for a ton of concealer, but I'm just going to put it in my usual places, and I think in contrast with the foundation, it is going to brighten. There's a little sponge on this, but we don't really love that sponge. It's very small and firm, and it just makes more sense to use the sponge you've already got going on. But see, this is an incredibly thin and lightweight concealer, and yet it does pack a big coverage punch. It applies great with a brush or a sponge, and I probably am going to pull in my brush just to hit some little areas. Normally I'd start with the brush and kind of like spread it out. I don't know why I didn't do that today. This time change. That's what I'll blame, the time change. I really don't feel like I'm working with, you know, the full box of crayons today. What I mean by spread it out is I would take my spot and I would use my little small part of my brush to like spread it across some surface area, and then use the sponge or a brush to just dab it in. So you make sure that concealer you applied to that one little place gets more spread out. That's what we usually do. But this is fine. This finish of the skin coverage is beautiful. It looks like real skin, but yet I am completely covered. As far as the setting powder you pull in at this point, so many different things could work. I think I'll use good old Wet n Wild Photo Focus, actually. Always a good option, and I picked some up with my little triangle powder puff. I always have these linked below in my extra info section there, and we just dab this on the under eye for setting. And it's a generous amount. I wouldn't say I'm always full on baking, but I'm, you know, getting some on there, and then I kind of dust away the excess in a second. This is just what works for me, gang. The look ends up wearing all day long. Take my little Morphe under eye bullet brush. You can see there's more than I need there, and I just go whoop. And it's pretty much just under eye and T-zone are the key places for the powder. And there's a nice, even, long-wearing complexion look. As for the rest of the face, you guys, on my lips, I've got on my new CoverGirl balm. I got the Made for Peach shade in the CoverGirl Clean Fresh balm, the last remaining balm that I needed to try from this line. So that's on all over the lips, and then I just kind of defined a little bit more with my Instapout liner from Hard Candy in the shade Kiss and Tell. It's kind of like a little bit of a cinnamony type of color. My blush today, gosh, what did I do? I first went on with the Hard Candy Face Off blush in Born Yesterday, and then I was like, by the time I finished the look, I thought I needed more peach, so I topped it off with Benefit Shelly, which looks like that. So very peachy. I've got a new palette on my eyes that I'm going to be talking about probably soon, Too Faced Italian Spritz. Wow, that is most definitely not the kind of palette I'm going to try once and be able to give you any kind of conclusion on. Like, I've used it for the third time and I still feel like I have a lot of unfinished business with that one. But today I wanted to see, can you tackle just a basic neutral eye? And it can, even though it has a lot of other splashes in there. So thank you for your time today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know, if do you like, you know, just favorites kind of roundups like this, or do you just want to see a full face of makeup all the time? I like a little variety here on my channel, but you let me know what you like. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon. I love you. Bye.